U.S. regulators are pressuring internet companies to put in place by the end of the year a do not track system that would give consumers more control over their personal data online. In a report released on Monday that privacy advocates dismissed as too soft. The Federal Trade Commission's long-awaited 57-page final report on privacy recommendations relies heavily on industry voluntarily adopting best practices. It also called on Congress to pass broad privacy legislation that would allow consumers to see how their online data is collected, used, and sold, and give consumers the ability to stop such practices. The report is in response to growing consumer concerns about how internet giants such as Google, Facebook, and Twitter collect and trade in vast amounts of detailed information about their users' online activities and real-life identities. The lack of force in the FTC's report is due in part to limits on the agency's power. In one of its top action items, the FTC urged internet companies to follow through on pledges to implement a do not track system that would let consumers click a button on their internet browser to ensure their data is not being collected. We are confident that consumers will have an easy-to-use and effective do not track option by the end of the year because companies are moving forward expeditiously to make it happen, and because lawmakers will want to enact legislation if they don't, said FTC Chairman John Leibowitz. Some privacy advocates were disappointed in the FTC's report, which was 2 years in the making. Do not track is like vapor policy. There's nothing there in terms of actual protections for users, said Mark Rodenberg, Executive Director of the Electronic Privacy Information Center. Privacy advocates said the industry-backed commitment do not track was of limited scope and consumers should avoid thinking their internet activity would be totally shielded. Consumer groups were disappointed by the FTC's reliance on self-regulation in the report. The Commission's overall support for industry self-regulation is disappointing and reveals a FTC still too often constrained from effectively protecting the public, said Jeff Chester, Executive Director of the Center for Digital Democracy. Joel Riedenberg, an internet privacy expert who teaches at Fordham University School of Law, said that the FTC report was significant even though the FTC's power to issue regulations on privacy is limited. The large companies are looking for guidance to be on the right side of privacy, and to the extent that the FTC is providing indications of what best practices should be in the privacy world, that will be of assistance to large companies, he said.